Morning, everybody. So, I'm just gonna do a little video today. Yesterday, I did a video, and it was it was a longer video. I was driving somewhere. It was about 40 minutes. Getting into whether special operations can beat the cartels. I'm just going to save you all a bunch of suspense. Special force operators, nothing but respect for those guys. Delta Force and SEALs, Air Force PJs, Force Recon, they're all some of the baddest people that you'll ever meet in the entire anywhere. In the entire history of mankind, they're some of the most skilled combat personnel that you could ever even hope to find. I mean, yeah. I mean, what are you going to say to that? But when you get down to the reality of what fighting the cartel is, it's a lot more than just being able to send a round downrange, man. And on top of it, you've already got hundreds of thousands of people in Mexico that have been fighting this thing for decades now at this point, if not millions. Hundreds of thousands of bodies that have either been murdered or disappeared in mass graves, whatever. With people that have lived and fought a drug war, a low-intensity conflict for decades now at this point, and you think that you're going to go in there and that you're going to somehow emerge victorious when we've already gotten spanked in Vietnam. We got spanked most recently in Afghanistan. First, we armed the Mujahideen against the Russians. Then we went back to go fight against those same weapons and left them another $1 billion worth of weapons on top of it, and other people that have destroyed family lives as far as divorces because your wife's screwing Jody while you're gone. You don't get to see your kids. You're paying child support. She got the house. I don't know. Stop me when I stop making sense. I'm not a know-it-all, dude. I'm not. I'm pretty bright in school. I've taken a couple of those IQ tests. And a lot of times it's mostly bullshit, You don't have to have 130 or 160 IQ or whatever to be able to figure out basic truths in life. Here's some basic truths in life that I figured out while I was in Mexico. I used to carry 220 rounds. I know that some people like 5.56 by 45 millimeter. That's not me. I'm a 7.62 by 51 millimeter guy. Even though it sucks for CQB, that's what I like. I'm not the world's best marksman, but I'm pretty decent. And decent enough to have made a living guarding my general for years. So, I mean, I know what's up. I was watching, they got this SEAL channel on. Dude with the beard. They were shooting 9 millimeters downrange. And him and a Delta guy. Or a Ranger. Proficiency with your weapon is great. But when you get in the reality of whether or not you're going to be able to fight the cartel and win, emerge victorious, you need to figure out what victory looks like ahead of time. And like I was saying, I used to carry 220 rounds with the 7.62 by 51 millimeter, one round in my weapon and another 10 on my tack vest or in my bag. And I thought one day, you could dispatch 220 of your enemies, and then the next day at base, because that's where I lived, I thought you're an idiot. The very next day there'll be another 300 people waiting to replace them because there's no opportunities. And when I figured out that this isn't something you can shoot your way out of, that people are going to want their illegal drugs. They're going to want sex. Prostitution and drugs have been literally around since Jesus and before, in every country, everywhere, every language. And you think that you're going to defeat someone that gets their entire living off that. This problem, and I've thought about this at depth, man, a lot longer than I'm going to squeeze into a 10-minute video, because I'm only going to make it like 10 minutes today. These are things that you should think about. First of all, there's no economic opportunity in Mexico, and there's even fewer and fewer economic opportunities here in the United States. So right off the bat, if you got someone telling you that you're not going to get a job, and you go to the next place and you're not going to get a job, and you go to the next place and you're not going to get a job, and on top of it, a lot of these people only have junior high school educations. And let's just be clear about something. In Mexico, becoming a police officer or military is actually, and even in the United States, these aren't people that are going to Columbia and Princeton and Yale universities curing cancer. And thank God for that, because we all know what a liberal shithole that all is. And I've been college educated, but when I went to work in Mexico, I was surprised to find out that a lot of my brothers, my own platoon, only had junior high school educations, and becoming an agent or police in Mexico is actually seen as the last stop on the block as far as being employable. And even here in the United States, it's a good paying job that people know that they don't have to have a college education to get. So I'm not belittling anybody. I'm just stating that there's a fundamental failure in the education system when someone's only offering to society can be the ability to pick up a weapon at the risk of or the peril of your own life and pull a trigger. We collectively as a society have failed that individual in enabling them or arming them with the proper tools and education to be able to go out and produce something like a printed circuit board, or how to cure cancer, how to extract teeth, several different things to where they could create something that's useful to society, that society would willingly, right, pay their own money for, a service, a good, something like that. So when we're talking about productive members of society, people that produce, let's forget I produce a safe and secure society. No, you don't. You show up after the fact, after someone's already shot someone up, robbed somebody, whatever. Let's just dispel the notion that there's safety and that we live in nature, which is an inherently dangerous place and always will be, no matter who picks up what weapon is around. You need to start speaking with facts. Okay? There's police presence in the hoods, and nobody wants to live in these hoods. They're some of the most patrolled places in the world, and there's people getting killed in them every day. So, no, we don't provide a safe and secure society. Stop that. Teach your wife and children how to wield a weapon and protect themselves is by far more beneficial. Dealing with the cartels. We've been making things illegal for eons now, millennia. How's that working out? I'm not clowning. I'm not being some arrogant jerk. I'm just asking you, how did prohibition work in the United States? Did it work? You tell me. Driving drunk is illegal, and you even have police doing it here in the United States. Politicians and what. I'm not saying that we should make everything legal, but I am saying that when you make everything illegal, you're creating a problem to where you're allowing someone to obtain profits that are just ridiculous, that enables them to go out and purchase submarines. You really got to think this stuff through. If we took the amount of money that we stuck into trying to fight something, and this is really what the problem is. It's in one of the movies. I forget, it escapes me at the moment, but one of the movies, I think it's Batman. It is Batman. It was one of the Batman movies where they talk about arresting all the people in Gotham and stuff like that, and you're hitting everybody in their pockets. And that's really what at the root of a lot of this is people, they attach a lot of their self-worth to, oh, I'm the tip of the spear, I'm going to go confront their machismo. And there's nothing wrong with being macho, just like there's nothing wrong with being feminine. These are two very important forces in the world, man. And we need that. But at the same time, it needs to be balanced. You know, you can be the toughest, strongest guy in the world, but you're not going to go out flexing your chest every time. Get out of my way. Every time you step out in the public. That's... And kind of there's a lot of that dick swaggering stuff going on when people want to talk about shooting, and they attach their entire identity to it, and it's unhealthy, man. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be proficient in martial arts or weapons. You definitely should. Everybody should, because there's going to be some scumbag or shithead criminal that's going to want to harm you or deprive you of your property or whatever at some point in time, because those people do exist. They always will. They will exist even if everyone in the entire world was a police officer. They exist even within the police. Look at Rampart or other things. But we shouldn't just attach our entire identity to picking up weapons. There's going to be people that are upset when the need, for example, ICE rounding everybody up right now. Great. You got all the people at DHS and ICE rounding everybody up. And I asked a politician recently in a letter, what are your plans after you've deported everybody? Okay? Because I'm okay with immigration, but I think that it needs to be controlled. What are you going to do with the tens of thousands of agents that are no longer required because you have deported everybody and now we don't need that amount of manpower? There are a lot of things that we should be thinking about as far as the amount of governance goes, and we just keep leaning towards a bigger and bigger government because people are making a lot of money and they're getting paychecks off of it and they're getting rich at the political level. And even within command levels to where they're making ridiculous amount of money, $300,000-$400,000 a year. This is coming out of your taxpayers' pockets, right? Why don't we take that money and spend it on education to where people that want to go down to the Federal Armed Forces Recruiting Center can actually go down and figure out how to make their own company and come up with something that they can take pride in and a different opportunity for themselves, rather than stick, I don't know, I'm not going to dog women, but a lot of women will get into the service because they want the housing benefit or the ability to buy a home, the educational benefit, but then they get pregnant and they wind up not going into combat, drawing a pension maybe. I don't know. You know what? I mean, just people going to the service for a lot of the wrong reasons. And the reason why they do that is because it is an opportunity to a different future to where they would not have had that sitting in the hood. And I think that we should learn how to enable people that become police and soldiers to get a better education. And not just police and soldiers of those people, but everybody in society. I mean, we all live in this society collectively, whether we like it or not. As far as so there's that portion of it. This is just a little video. We can dig into these topics deeper. This is just what I've learned working in Mexico directly against the cartels. So there's that. There's the market and making things illegal to drive an industry, because that's what it is, fighting crime prevention, even though it's not preventing anything, is an industry. right? So there's that. If you legalize these things and make it to where everybody can participate in this market, even if it's not healthy, and currently you've got the legalization of marijuana throughout the United States. Someone wants to put a substance in their body, even if it's heroin, right? First of all, we don't know the how and why, but maybe it's a terminally ill cancer patient with no insurance that's dying and they want to check out on heroin. I mean, that's just one possibility. We all know that people abuse the hell out of drugs. But if we start determining and dictating what substances people are allowed to ingest and stuff like that, and criminalizing that instead of criminalizing just the act of what they're doing, we're going down the wrong path, and this is why. Pretty soon it's illegal to take beer. Pretty soon, or consume beer. Pretty soon it's illegal, like in Utah. You can't consume alcohol unless you go to a special bar, bring in your glasses or whatever, or you bring in your own whiskey and the bar provides the glasses. They start legislating all these things, and pretty soon you can't even have a Jack and Coke while you're with Stell Cracker in Louisiana in his kitchen right next to the police department having some shrimp boil, dude. I mean, is that really the type of freedom that you have in mind? And yes, we need to extend it to certain drugs and be like, okay, if you want to get screwed up on drugs, we're going to let you. Maybe, this is why. Why, Dave? Because if you don't do that, you create an illegal market which generates massive amounts of profit to where people are getting involved in this instead of going down a different path. And instead of taking all the money that we spend on fighting something in a way that doesn't work, spend it on something that does work, like giving somebody the ability to go to school even when they're an adult and they've made some mistakes or whatever. Whatever the case may be. Some chick got pregnant, decides to go into the military, wants a way to take care of her kid. I don't know, man. What I do know is that you're not going to shoot your way out of this war. What I do know is that even though SEALs and Delta Force operators are some of the baddest people on the planet, 100%. And even some of the police officers and other people around the country. I mean, we all know badasses, man. But you're no more effective at pulling a trigger than any other one of the 100,000s of people that have done it for 2 decades now at this point in Mexico on a daily basis and lived amongst it and just wind up stacking bodies up, and the problem still exists. And then that's not even to deal with the political corruption on top of, which is another component to this. Political corruption, term limits. There are so many people that get rich off of this that it's ridiculous. And like you, I'm an American. I'm not all buffed out like I was in the gym 8 hours a day when I was younger or whatever. I'm getting older, but I'm still a part of this society. I'm not packing a machine gun in the back of a truck in Mexico anymore, but I still live here just like you do. No matter where you're at in this stage of the game, and these are things that you should be thinking about, coupled with the fact that Mexico, here's another one. Mexico is a nuclear latent country, which means they have the ability to produce nuclear weapons there, but they've opted not to. A lot of our components come from Mexico. So, there's so many facets of this thing, and I will sit here and watch all the just garbage that comes out of people's mouths. I'm not going to mention any programs' names, but this morning I was watching a journalist that was educated at Columbia. Her husband was educated at Columbia, and they came together with a company. She speaks like 6 or 7 languages, more than I do. And when you're educated at Columbia, you kind of got to pay attention to that because, it's a prestigious university, and that's something that anybody would be proud to have. And she speaks Portuguese, so she's opinining on the cartel war. So I'm like, okay. I looked her up, I'll pay attention a little bit to what she has to say. Portuguese, Spanish. She's fluent in Spanish too. There are so many people that want to opine and make money off this thing. And they got their chicken shit podcast or whatever, man. But at the end of the day, if we really engage in a conflict with a neighbor that's been in this country for decades, and you think that you're going to shoot your way out of it, I don't know how many of you people play chess, and I'm not going to be, this is chess, not checkers, training day bullshit. If you really think this through and think, hey, we're going to shoot our way out of it, where are you going to be at the end of 5 or 10 years of that? Cartels, they're talking about wanting the Arabs crossing the southern border. Everyone that was involved in the 9/11 pilot thing, there's plenty of problems with that, was already here either on student or tourist visas anyways. And a lot of them were already getting pilot's licenses in the United States, vetted by the U.S. government. And you're talking about they need to smuggle in terrorists across the border. Dude, think it through, man. These people have been here for decades already. So, I mean, sealing off the border hasn't worked. Why not start going after companies and business owners that pay the politicians to pass the laws for hiring people illegally, something that actually would work? I mean, our answer is always a knee-jerk, hey, let's point a gun at it and put a wall up and we think it's going to work, man. And it hasn't worked ever. But people go down this route because they're making money and paying their mortgages and making millions of dollars off it with their politicians and stuff like that. Meanwhile, you and I, Joe and Jane Doe, American, are getting raked over the coals with tax dollars and stuff like that. And you know what? Like I said, I voted for Trump. Hey, where's the overtime tax elimination and tax on tip elimination? Where's that? I mean, but we want to sit here and engage in another conflict that's going to cost more tax dollars and stuff like that. And yeah, the defense industry is good for business. I would be a liar if I said I didn't make a ton of money off of the defense industry. I'm involved in it directly. I sit there and make and program all kinds of stuff for the defense industry and the aviation industry for aerospace. Having said that, taxing everybody to no end, I've worked 2 jobs like I told you, and just paying more and more tax dollars on strategies that don't work. I mean, is that really the road that we should be going down? Everyone's sitting here, they want to sensationalize the cartel war. You're not going to win. Jose Gonzalez or whatever, Chapo, Efren, whatever their last name is, needs to feed his children. And guess what? If his family's threatened because there's soft targets everywhere, and he's been looking for a job for 3 years and can't find one, and all he has to do is pack some stuff across the border because they're going to kill his family or they don't have anything to eat, guess what? He's going to become a mule and pack across something across the border to your teenage daughter that wants to smoke some weed. I mean, it's just, dude, that's what goes on. So these are things that people really need to start considering when they're starting to think about, what should we get in the war? Should we turn the entire United States into East Berlin with walls everywhere and stuff like that and cramp down on our freedom even more? Think about this. Is freedom something that you like? Is it? Oh, great. I got to shut this off a little bit. I don't want to sit there and listen to all that beeping. Is freedom something that you like, and are you more or less free than you were 20 years ago or 10 years ago? Whatever your age is. Right? Is your quality of life better or worse than when you were younger? Has more government helped or hurt you? And this even goes out to you liberal people there too. You've been on the plantation for how long? Are your children being raised in a community that is safe for them? Not safe, but I mean, are they in danger of being killed by other gang members and stuff like that? More education always is going to equal more opportunities. I do not like the liberal influx of people in the United States university system at all, or even at this stage of the game, the elementary, junior high, and high school systems too, because they're all a bunch of liberal quacks, man. They really are. However, and I grew up for a long portion of my childhood and early, adolescence on a corn and pig farm. So I know about there being a lack of opportunities in rural America. Even though we went back to LA. And I know about lack of opportunities in LA too, because there's so much competition. I think that we would all be better served if we really started paying attention to some of the complexities that I've learned about living in Mexico, even having a hard time paying for beans and tortillas, man. That's no lie. I've been through it too. And there's people that are a lot worse off in Mexico than we were. And so the cartel has a never-ending supply of personnel, both willing and unwilling, around an entire sea of soft targets, which are also on this side of the border because they've been here for years. And when you think about the American Civil War, because that's the closest thing to define what the drug war in Mexico is a civil war. The American Civil War killed, off the top of my head, I'm going to say 600,000 people at a time when the population was maybe a tenth of what it is today. I don't, you know what, let's just see. Let's just look up right now. Population of the United States in 1863. It was about a tenth. It was 31 million. I nailed it. So between 1863 and 1865, you got the Civil War, and there's 600,000 people killed. And then you think that you want to enter into a war with the Mexico. And this isn't me. I picked up a weapon and was in the back of the truck myself, putting my own bacon on the line for a long time. In Mexico against cartels. I'm just asking if you guys have all really thought this through. Do you want your sons and daughters and wives also subjected to the same level of danger that you're going to face or more because they're easier to attack than you are? And these guys have been here for a long time. Or should we maybe think about situations and strategies that would work, like legalizing things like drug use, but also penalizing the hell out of breaking into someone's car or breaking into someone's house to try to get money to support your drug habit. You want to go home and get loaded on heroin? Okay, I'm going to allow you. I know it's addictive, and you better take that into consideration too, because if you break into our home or our house, we're going to shoot you or defend ourselves or send you to prison for 15 years, where you'll be provided ample social reinsertion strategies like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, or whatever. Or you can sit there in your home and responsibly enjoy your heroin just like you could a beer. And deprive the cartel of its market and their markup on products that everybody can now sell for $10 down at 7-Eleven if you got an ID. Whatever. Or a state-run liquor store except for drugs. What's clear is the strategy that people are just picking up a weapon and building some walls isn't working. Any more than the current existing walls have been working, trying to repel people that have flooded this country to get jobs because companies are allowed to hire them. In fact, even encouraged to hire them. When I was a boy on a corn and pig farm, I never saw someone that wasn't white. I'm not being racist saying that. It's just the truth. Everyone was white. And then as time goes on, more and more people, and it started in the 50s during World War II with a lot of the Americans being off in the war, being killed, and they needed some labor, and so they started importing a lot of people from Mexico to provide labor. And ever since then, it's gotten worse and worse and worse because people are addicted to cheap labor. Even we are when we buy stuff from Walmart at China. There are things that we need to think about as a society and how things are going to go. And even the unionization in American factories where you're paying someone putting on lug nuts $40 an hour because they deserve a good wage, and paying someone $15 an hour to flip burgers. The cartel problem is so much bigger than just picking up a weapon or getting pissed off and watching something on YouTube and deciding that you got a solution for it because you're going to send some Navy SEALs and JSOC people down to Mexico and go ruffle some feathers, and then in the end you wind up in a society with even less freedom than you had to begin with, and the problem's just exacerbated itself. So I don't know what to tell you. I know what my experiences are, but these are questions that we should all be asking ourselves. I'm not all dressed up. I look like crap today, and I don't care, because the problem's bigger than how I look or if I got all the light perfect. These are real everyday life problems that people in both countries face and that we ought to be thinking about. And this weekend I'll probably come up with I'll start deep diving into each one of these subjects. But I mean, really, when the best we can offer some of the most noble and honorable people among us is the ability to offer their life and pick up a weapon and point it at somebody when it's a strategy that doesn't work. It's a job paying them to do that, instead of giving them the opportunity to get a 4-year degree or something like that, to where they can start spitting out printed circuit boards or building complex machinery or whatever. Become an engineer, something that actually benefits society. Then, you know, we're in problems because that person deserves better. We all deserve better. And think about the society that we could build. There's a lot of stuff when I was going to law school about the UN and where they buy their way into governments around the world trying to implement their processes. And before that, the League of Nations. I could go total QAnon on this. I'm not going to. I just want to stick with the basic problems that we have right now and think about whether these strategies really work in a way that people can easily digest that. Because if you start going down the rabbit hole behind the banking system and the way that they control everything, even though you vote and blah, 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 we could get lost and be here for weeks. Pointing a gun at the drug cartel is not going to work. They've been doing it for decades already. I encourage you to try, but other people dedicated to this have still, this strategy, it doesn't work. And these are other questions that we should be thinking about. And I don't know. I'm gonna bounce. I got to get out of here. But I just kind of wanted to say that. I made a video yesterday talking about it, but I didn't like I got a big motor in my truck, and so you can hear it. Anyways, cheers. If you want, like and subscribe. If you don't, that's okay too. Either way, I hope you have a wonderful day, man. Cheers.